Council meeting for Wednesday, September 15th. Could I have the roll call, please?
Andrea Burns.
Present.
Justin Cobb.
Present.
Ron Chetinov.
Present.
Donald Psychowski.
Here.
Salem Derby.
Present.
Van Hagen.
Present.
Joseph McCoy.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Joy Winnie.
Here.
Could I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of September 1st, 2010?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes of September 1st, 2010. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? No, okay, motion passes. Public speak time. If there's anyone here who would like to address the council about some topic other than what's scheduled for our public hearings, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Okay, none being seen. Moving on, communications from elected officials, boards, and committees. Councilor Rist, do we have anything?
We have something from the Hampshire County Council of Governments. It's an interesting database on who gets paid what in all of the cities and towns, except some of them are incomplete, like Northampton. But it is interesting, and for our use when determining salaries. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Barb, that would be available to the public if someone wanted to see it, if they stopped in, I assume? Okay, great. If anyone is interested in the comparison of those salaries, the city clerk would have a copy. Councilor Cobb?
Just a quick comment. Whoever presented this to us, I actually want to say thank you. This is very timely, given the agenda in the Finance Committee at this period of time.
Okay,
So
terrific.
we'll take this information.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Communications, Mayor Tuzik? Nothing, okay. Moving on to standing committees, Rules and Government Relations.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. President. Just want to announce that we are going to meet on October 6th at 5:45 in these chambers relating, we're going to be looking at the health insurance petition to the legislature.
You are? Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Terrific.
That concludes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finance, Councilor Cobb.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a number of issues I'd like to bring up. The first is to let everyone know that we did meet last week to discuss a number of issues. You'll see them on the public hearing agenda tonight. That said, our next meeting will be next Wednesday at 6:30 at 50 Payson Avenue in the conference room number 1. The items on the agenda at that point will be the review of salaries of elected officials and committees. That basically will conclude that. Hopefully, we'll be able to start our communications on that. What I'd like to do is set a public hearing, because we did vote on this last time, for an interdepartmental transfer of $922.88 to fund the DPW step increases. And I'd like to set that public hearing for 10/6/10 at 6:15 in these chambers, and I state that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for the setting of the public hearing for October 6th for the aforementioned topic. And there's a second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you.
And that concludes my finance report at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Public Safety, Councilor
No report this
Psychowski.
evening, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Appointments, Councilor Winnie.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have two appointments put before us from the mayoral appointments. The first being Melissa Zawatsky for Finance Director with term expiring on December 31st, 2013. And I'll offer it up as a form of a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the acceptance of Melissa Zawatsky as Finance Director. Any discussion or comments? Councilor Rist?
As a former counselor, Ms. Melissa Zawatsky brings a lot of experience to this position, and I personally am ecstatic that she has accepted the position. I think it's a very good find for Easthampton. Since we've had some turnover in the position, I want the residents and taxpayers to know we believe, this council I'm sure, but myself for sure, believe that the fiscal care of our community is in very good hands.
Thank you. Councilor Psychowski?
I would just like to say it's real nice that our tax director is going to be a resident of Easthampton, and I know she's going to do a very good job. And I've been very disappointed in office since Dee Dee left, and that we're going to put it in good hands with Melissa, and she's going to go forward, and I won't have to complain.
Yeah, okay.
Can we put that in?
Yeah, exactly. Are there any other comments concerning? Okay. That being said, we have a Motion and a second for acceptance of Melissa Wadsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
And our, go ahead, clap. It's all good.
No speech.
Our second appointment before us is Brian Fink to the Board of Registrars with term expiring on December 31st, 2010, to fill an open seat. I'll make that in the form of a motion that he be appointed.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the appointment of Brian Fink to Board of Registers. Any discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. That ends my report for tonight.
Thank you. Ordinance, Counselor Shetchinoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to set the following public hearings for October 6th, 2010 at 6:15 PM here in these chambers. One for the proposed Agricultural Commission. Also, the citizen petition to amend the Highway Business District setback. And also the addition of to City Ordinance Section 8-1 regarding littering with delivery of periodicals. So I may put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second to set public hearings. It's October 6th, so next meeting. It's for the citizens petition for the HB Highway Business District boundary, the Section 8, Chapter 8, Section 8-1 considering littering, and the proposal to establish an agricultural commission. For public hearings, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained?
I'll
Motion's-
abstain. I may have a conflict on one of the issues.
Okay, terrific. One abstention. Thank you, Counselor Hagan.
I'd also like to make a motion for 30-day extension on the following items. Chapter 148, Section 26H, which deals with sprinklers in the couple of boarding houses within the city limits. I've talked to the fire chief today, and he's been in contact with one of the boarding houses, is still getting estimates. The other one, we haven't heard back yet, but this 30 days would be the last extension for this, and then the fire department will take action if no action to get this corrected is taken by the property owners. I'd also like to ask for 30 days on Section 8-1, the city ordinance for the littering, because it expires the day before we're meeting next. Also, same situation for the citizen petition for the Highway Business District setback, 30 days, and the Agricultural Commission, 30 days. So if I could put those four requests in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion for a 30 days extension and a second for 30-day extension on the previously mentioned topics. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I'll abstain again on one possible comment.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, on Section 10-10.0 signs, I'd like to ask for a 60-day extension. At our last meeting, we closed the public hearing, and the ordinance subcommittee is working to bring that to the full council, hopefully in short order. So if I could get, make that in a motion for
Second.
60 days.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion for an extension of 60 days on Section 10.0 signs. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
And one announcement of scheduled ordinance subcommittee meeting to deal with Section 10.0 signs is scheduled for September 21st at 7 PM at 50 Payson in Conference Room 1.
Okay. Thank you very
And that
much.
concludes my report.
Great, thank you very much. Property, Counselor Cobb.
No report.
Okay, thank you. Charter Review Ad Hoc Committee, Counselor Rist.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 23rd in Conference Room 1 at 5 PM. That earlier time, I'm sorry, I did say October, didn't I? September 23rd, that's a week tomorrow, at 5 PM to accommodate those of us members that need to attend the school building committee meeting, which is also on that evening. We have sent to the mayor a first draft of our recommended changes. At that time, the mayor will join us, and we will defend those changes to the mayor. Just to remind the councilors, this process to change the charter requires concurrence of the mayor's office in any change. It is not ordinance veto type of process. It is something in which nothing can go to the legislature unless both levels of government agree. So we're going to begin to debate, compromise, and defend the revisions we're thinking about. And then in future meetings, we hope to reach a concluded document which we'll present to the council for its review and final vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, we have no old business pending, and we have no new business right now. Public hearing, sorry, Council Winnie.
I wanted to ask the mayor a question, and we went over mayor communications quite quickly.
Okay.
Could I ask that?
I believe he'd probably be open to that.
Oh, wait, we have new business. We have her resolution, too.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well,
No, we can go, I'm sorry, go ahead, we can follow that after.
I'm gonna wait for the boss. I had some emails, and I've had some people ask me on the street what our plans are for the boathouse area, now that the dredging has been completed and the old boathouse structure has been taken down. Do we have any plans to make it a swimming area, to whatever? What are you thinking?
The
So that,
property is under the jurisdiction of the Park and Recreation Commission to begin with, so it's
Okay.
their determination. It is not sufficiently sized for a public swimming area. The city doesn't have the funds to create a public swimming area. In my mind, it stays a piece of public property that people can enjoy as they wish to. I'd like to find some money to be able to barrier it off so that people don't continue to drive on it. There is a design, it's actually on our city's website. There's a PDF of the design for a terraced area, a grass terraced area with some parking and a launch road. Heavily dependent on finding a few $100,000 in funds, or a couple of $100,000 in funds. But that concept is a concept that we worked with the Corps of Engineers, and the landscape architect on it was Bill Cannon. And so we talked to the Corps in fear of looking at, could they do something on the way out to help facilitate that, and one of the things they did is the sloping below the water level, so that it's more suitable to create a ramp, should we put a launch there. But there are no near-term plans for that property. The building was torn down because it was falling down. And it clearly it could not support a public swimming area. There simply wouldn't be enough parking, the neighborhood would be overrun. And so that's about the best answer I can give you at this time.
Terrific.
thank you.
Thank you. I guess, I'm sorry, Councilor Burns, I overlooked your new business here, so if you'd like to introduce it.
Everybody's sitting. Should I talk a little bit about it?
Sure.
And then we can talk.
Of course.
Our food service contractor is Chartwell's, and they have pledged, and they're already implementing this. They are serving, I believe it's up to 20 products, agricultural products from small and medium farms locally. Not everybody's doing this, so I think it's a big deal for Easthampton. And so I thought that it would be a good idea for us to not only support what they're doing, but also to pledge, perhaps as a council, to support not only them, but future food service contracts or contractors in doing the same. There's a lot of support for this on the federal level as well as in our state legislature. And there's a lot of money available, a lot of grants available, and generally it's it's going to become a very popular thing to do. It's an important thing for our local economy, for our financial stability, for the health of our children. And I think it's great that Easthampton is doing this. I think it's very significant. I think that we should, draw some attention to it. And I also think it's a great thing to commit to as a council, that we want to do this in the future. So that's the background. The timing of it is that the last week in September is Farm to School Week. And even in our schools, there's going to be, I think it's the last week of September, local officials will be invited to partake, I believe, and to see what is being served. So it's, the timing is because it's the last week of September, and I wanted to introduce it before then. So that's the general background, and I can read it. I don't know if I should make it in the form of a motion, or if there's questions about it or objections.
Yeah, we can start this way. Does anyone have any questions concerning what Councilor Burns has submitted or nothing? Okay, why don't you proceed with the resolution then, and we will maybe take a motion to accept the resolution as read.
Okay. I'm calling regarding the use of local agricultural produce in school lunches, Easthampton City Council resolution. Whereas the City of Easthampton recognizes the importance of fruits and vegetables as part of a nutritional diet for the health of our residents, especially our children, and whereas we understand the importance of healthy food in reducing the occurrence of childhood obesity and associated health concerns, and whereas we support our farms in Easthampton and neighboring communities for the preservation of our cultural heritage and for the economic benefit, and whereas we support legislation in both the federal and state legislatures that promote the Farm to School project, be it resolved that we, the City Council of Easthampton, Massachusetts, hereby recognize the commitment of Easthampton Public Schools food service operations to use fruit and vegetables from small and medium-sized farms in school lunches year-round, and that we make it a priority to favor companies in the future that follow a policy of purchasing local agricultural products.
Second?
Okay, so motion, we had talked about this earlier, make an amendment to that
Yes.
resolution that we will then forward a letter basically summarizing the statement to the officials, appropriate officials. So with that, a motion, can I have a second on that amendment, to that motion then?
Second.
Okay, second. So all those in favor of that amendment to the
Aye.
motion? Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, and now we'll take a vote then on the first motion for the exception of the resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, the resolution passes. Thank you very much, Councilor Burns. It was great work to make us aware of that work in our city. Councilor Rist.
Make a motion to open public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to open the public hearings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearings are open. Supplemental appropriations, Councilor Cobb.
Thank you. What I'd like to do, first of all, is do a second reading before we open this up, give a little bit of background. Again, what I have before me is a supplemental appropriation request for fiscal year 2010, stated May 26, 2010. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested is $200,000. Signed, it has the auditor's approval signature on it, to be appropriated from 0292982 CPA Housing Fund, the full amount of $200,000. Be appropriated to the CPA Affordable Housing Development Expense Account, the full amount of $200,000. The amounts requested will be used for the following purpose: to provide funding for long-term affordable housing at 69 Parsons Street. That said, some of the background, you'll notice in your packet, there was some additional supplemental information that came out of our meeting that wasn't in the original proposal. What you'll see is first of all, there's the CPA funding history. This basically demonstrates we have the funds in place to support this. A hard-to-read map of the actual parcel, where a good set of glasses or magnifying glasses will help you decide what's going what. The third part is the actual original request, in case people didn't lost that or misplaced that. And we also have some executive summaries from the information given to us at CPA. There is an updated funding document, so you can see where the money is actually coming from for the proposal. And lastly, I included the executive summary from a fee appraisal that was done on the property, so you can see and understand where some of the discussion will go in the future. I'd like to note that the Finance Committee did meet and deliberate on this again last Wednesday. We did not vote on it, so the public hearing tonight, I'd be more than willing to entertain any additional input and hear what people have to say. And later on at the end, I will make a motion to continue the public hearing. I'll give some quick background on this so that people were all on the same page. July of '09, this was the CPA committee moved this. Basically, I received this project and can't read my notes, but that's because we basically received this in July of '09, and we actually discussed it and it was voted on. And it was voted May 10th. It was voted favorably out of the CPA committee. I was not present at that meeting when it was voted favorably out of CPA. I should note that I am a member of the CPA committee and that I have not been in favor of this current proposal. June 10th, this was forwarded to Finance for review. We have met a couple times on this to discuss this. I've gathered a lot of information. I'd like to thank the Housing Partnership and their affiliates being very open with information, full disclosure and everything. It's been very good. We didn't vote because we had a member missing last time. We wanted to give this a fair shake and make sure we're all on board. This is a pretty important item, pretty big deal, and so therefore why we're at where we're at today. I will note that I do have some additional references that I encourage people to pay attention to when it comes to affordable housing. One is our master plan. There's a statement in there. Stuart, you're going to love this. Our community development plan, there's information in there on public housing. And there's also an affordable housing production plan, a final report that we have at the city that we'll be reviewing and applying in our deliberations also. That's the background of where we are at this point. I encourage people to delve into it, given the size of the project. And at this point, with the permission of the President, I'd like to invite any input here for public hearing for fellow councilors to hear, for those who wish to stand up and speak.
Okay, as Councilor Cobb said, is there anyone here who would like to speak to this topic, the appropriation of the $200,000 from the CPA Housing Fund for the at 69 Parsons Street? So if anyone would like to speak to it, please come to the podium and just state your name and address for the record, please.
If possible, I'd like to see if I could receive a little bit more information. I'm under the assumption that the proposal is to put 45 units on that parcel. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Could you tell me how many will be 1, 2, or 3 bedroom apartments?
The city planner may be able to answer that for you, so the city planner will probably come up, so we'll ask him that question. I'm not aware. I'm not sure if anyone else in the finance committee knows that number exactly. So if you keep your question in your head when the city planner comes up, he may be able to answer that question for you.
All right, then, in relationship to that question, 45 units on that is going to be really very dense. By the time you get the units and the parking, and if there's anything left for drainage and runoff and so forth, it's not going to be very much space left. If there are a proportion of 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, having been a landlord for 30 years, then you will bring about 2 to 3 children to a 2 and 3 bedroom apartment. 45 units would bring a minimum of 90 children to that area. And my question would be, where would 90 children play? Presently, a lot of the children play in the cemetery, which are causing stones to fall over. If you look at that cemetery, it's in some disrepair. These are the thoughts that I bring, and possibly others, as I listen to the things that are going to transpire.
And also to remind you that the public, this topic will still be discussed at the Finance Committee on September 22nd at 6:30? 6:30 p.m. at 50 Payson Ave. So if you want to continue with discussion, the Finance Subcommittee will be meeting it.
I'll be in a wedding in Georgia.
Okay. Councilor Cobb.
Just a brief statement. One of the things we tried to do at Finance was recognize that we're not here to get into the technical aspects of the actual project. We're here to actually focus on the CPA money itself, and just wanted the council president
That's
to
a good point.
understand that in case things start to waver.
Right, that's a good
Thank
point.
you.
Next person, please, thank you.
Good evening. My name's Derek Mason, 50 Terrace View. I'm here as an individual tonight in support of the request. I'm not here representing the Community Development Advisory Committee or the EDIC or any other group of which I'm a member, because they have not yet addressed this particular proposed project. However, I am here to support the request. And I understand that both the Easthampton Housing Partnership and the Community Preservation Committee have recommended funding for this project. I support the development of affordable housing in the city. I think that the city has documented the need and the community-wide support for affordable rental housing in its master plan and community development strategy and the affordable housing production plans. The Valley CDC, in my experience, both as a client, as a board member, over several years, or many years actually, is that they're a highly experienced affordable housing developer. And the Valley CDC is a community-based nonprofit agency with an excellent track record. They pay very close attention to the needs of the community and what's appropriate to the community. And they're highly skilled at the planning and execution and management of these projects. They have created, over the past 20 years or so, well over 160 units of affordable housing in this area. And since the Valley CDC has to seek a special permit from the planning board, there will be, in my opinion, ample time for public comment and discussion regarding the technical details of the project and what's appropriate to the site. I understand also that no CPA money will be spent until all the funding necessary for the project is approved, and that may take several years, and which will be after the special permit process. Those are my comments for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to talk? Thank you.
My name is Tom Kegelman. I'm a resident on Park Street, and I came to speak in support of the funding of this project. I know that there's no details yet, and I understand the gentleman's concerns about bedroom, children, playgrounds, and I know a lot of that is going to come out in the discussion and during the permitting process, and it's not probably appropriate at this point to get into too much of that, but I will say that I have had a lot of experience with Valley CDC. I've worked with them on projects in Northampton, and I found them to be an extremely reliable professional organization with enormous resources and a great deal of concern and sensitivity to the neighborhoods that they work in and the people that they serve. And if the question before the committee is, should we give this money to this group, I would wholeheartedly recommend that you do so.
Hi, my name's Clara Grape. I'm a resident at 55 Clark Street in Easthampton, and I'm here to just say my piece about also being supportive of the appropriations of the CPA funds. I think the project, it's at an early stage, so it's just at the beginning, but the concept of it fits in with what the mission behind the CPA is, the funds, in terms of creating affordable housing in Easthampton. It's also fitting within what is laid out in the master plan and also supported by the housing partnership in town. I think it's important for us to continue to look at ways for us to use our town resources for affordable housing. CPA money, 10% of that is supposed to be reserved for that. I'm familiar with Valley CDC. I think they're an excellent organization, and as far as sponsorship in terms of our responsibility as a town to put the money into responsible hands, I think that they would be an excellent sponsor for the project. And I think as far as appropriating the funds, I think this would be a good use for it. So I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jackie Brousseau Pereira. I live at 39 Garfield Ave, and I'm also a member of the Easthampton Housing Partnership. Thanks so much for listening to us to talk in support of this project tonight. The last time I was here, we talked about another project that the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is going to be doing, and that project came out of an RFP that the Easthampton Housing Partnership issued, a really long time ago, but we got proposals in February and we started vetting them. And like the PVPC project, this one from Valley CDC is also from that RFP process. So we sought projects from the committee, from the community, and this is one of them. And having served on the Easthampton Housing Partnership for at least the last 5 years now, I can tell you that it takes a long time to develop affordable housing. There are not lots of projects that come forward to us. This is a very special occasion. So I want, as you're thinking about this, after hopefully the Finance Committee says yes and recommends it to you, I want you to think about that. This is not the kind of project that's going to come along again anytime soon. So it has the potential to add 0.5% to our affordable housing inventory, which is an excellent thing. It's obviously, you've heard from other folks already that this is a developer that we know and trust. They've done excellent work in other communities for a very long time. The Easthampton Master Plan and the Affordable Housing Inventory List both say that we need safe, quality, affordable housing for our residents in Easthampton, and rental and homeownership. So this helps with the rental a lot. So it's a great project. It's a trusted developer. If you think about that parcel sitting fallow right now, what's the city collecting in tax revenues from that? Not a whole lot. If you put a project on there that's worth $9 million, what's the city going to collect in tax revenues from that? A lot more than what it's getting now. So that's something to think about. It's also a project that's going to bring some jobs into the community. It's going to take a long time to build. It's going to bring some jobs in. So those things are all kind of nice side effects to this project, which will bring us a lot of nice, safe, quality, affordable housing for our working lower income people in the community. So I think that's about it. And plus, the $200,000 that we're asking in CPA funds is a drop in the bucket for this project. It's a $9 million project. We leverage a lot of other money by saying yes to this. It's definitely an appropriate use of CPA funds. It's new construction. It's going to be beautiful, nicely done, working with the community to get it to look the way it should, affordable housing. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak to this topic? Stuart, do you mind coming up for a couple of questions, please? Councilor Rist?
Just a couple as I deliberated on this. This parcel is currently zoned neighborhood business? Did I read that?
The front 100 feet along Parsons Street is neighborhood business, the rest is R15.
R15. So the density of this project is allowed because of the affordable, because of the 55 and over, or affordable? What law allows this density?
You may remember, I don't know, a year and a half ago, the zoning ordinance was changed to switch what we had been using for multifamily housing for the elderly to address multifamily housing with affordability. So it is that change that allows the density.
So if this project were not to be built in this way, this acreage could still be used to develop non-affordable housing units in some way, but only R15, or could another developer present a project or do it on their own without having to get CPA funds? I'm just curious what could happen to this land if this didn't happen.
Go ahead.
One piece of the puzzle is that I didn't wish to get into in great detail today is that the property card already indicates that the parcel is permitted for 24 units of 55 and older and 8 multi-families, so 32 units already. It's already permitted for that. Correct me if I'm...
So you'd have 24 units of that scale, maybe 40 units, smaller apartments, but in similar density of property.
The 32 was permitted prior to the affordability change, but it still exists and will for at least another 2 years as a possible development scenario. To answer your question, another developer could come in at this, as long as they had affordability, and propose a similar density as Valley has here, or under standard development in R15 it'd be a little limited, but in a subdivision then there would be a lot lower density.
Okay. Final question, or a couple questions. I noticed on the CPA source of funds listing, you have CPA 2011, $300,000. You gonna be coming back to us for another $300,000?
Okay, just to clarify, that's a proposal by the applicant to the housing partnership, which is Valley CDC. As they answered at the finance committee, yes, we would be back. It would need to go through the same process of going through the housing partnership, CPA committee, and the city council.
Is that post-permitting with regard to, the planning board's gonna look at this whole thing as
Yes.
it's designed?
Yes.
Is it able to be designed before all the funding's in place, or the acquisition? I mean,
Yep.
I'm just curious of the process. I'm wondering what the cart's before the horse kind of thing.
You may want to ask Valley about their specific schedule, but as I understand it, the permitting process would certainly take place before the total funding package is complete.
And before you come back for the CPA funding, the additional CPA funding, you think?
You would have to ask them.
Oh, they're the ones asking. Okay. Thank you very much.
Council Winnie?
Stuart, where are we in meeting our quota for the low-income housing that the state recognizes, and how many more housing units do you think we're gonna need to meet the state's quota?
So the state's requirement recommendation under Chapter 40B is that each community have 10% affordable housing by their definition on the state housing inventory. Currently, I believe we are around 6.8%, and so another 3% is probably around 300, if my math is right, 350 more units would be needed.
Councilor, I'm sorry, Councilor Cobb?
Just a comment, I did reference a whole bunch of materials here.
Thank you very
And I'm
much.
hoping that if councilors want to review some of this, that our city planner will leave these with the city clerk for people to pay attention to.
Yes,
Thank
or in particular the master plan. If anyone doesn't have a copy of the master plan, we are happy to get it to you.
Councilor Psychowski?
Stuart, several weeks ago we were here, and you promised that you would get me the number of total of Section 8 certificates that are being used in this town, and the second time I asked you, and both times you said yes, but I think you forgot. Could you come up with that number shortly? So in a discussion of affordability, that would be a big help. If the certificates are coming in and are being used in town, I would like to petition the legislature and the federal government to allow us to use them in account in this community, if possible.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder.
Councilor Hagan?
Stuart, just to clear something up, you mentioned the 32 units approved. The appraisal in some of the language here talks 45 units, and when I specifically asked you at the finance, you told me right now there can be no more than a maximum of 40. I just want to make sure that's accurate, not 45.
Yes, I also sent, that is what I said in the finance committee meeting. I also sent out an email to the finance committee members today clarifying, modifying that answer. So the 40 units that could be built is under what the planning board has historically used as a density in the neighborhood business district. However, our zoning does not specifically spell out a formula for figuring out the housing density in the neighborhood business district. So within the special permit process, it is possible that an applicant could propose more than that. And I don't know what that number would be, but within the neighborhood business district, they would have to review it under, they could review it under a more flexible standard.
I mean, is there a maximum? I mean, could they apply for 60, 70? I mean, there must be some type of guideline.
Well, I think what you'll find is that the design, and in particular the required area for parking, is going to limit the number of units. But formula-wise, there's nothing spelled out in the zoning.
Councilor Psychowski?
Mr. Town just brought up about if there's 2 and 3 bedroom units on that apartment. the kids are gonna have no place to play, and that's something that we're gonna have to take into consideration in long-term planning. And the thing of it is, you just brought up, the park is gonna, take care of the rest of the property, but I mean, will the planning board insist that there's a play area for the kids in that project, or they can't?
No, it'll be the amount of open space or usable space by residents will be a very important thing that the planning board looks at.
Oh, and one other follow-up question, because I don't know whether I misunderstood you or not. I always thought when you went before the planning board to apply for the permit, you had to have preliminary sketches of the development done, not to go in there and just say, we're gonna have 45 units or 30 units, and no sketches of the project, no nothing. I thought there had to be some type of sketches. I thought the only ones that could get away with it is the town.
Even the town can't get away with that. So before it comes to the planning board, there would be an application showing the development.
Before they start their hearings, right?
Correct.
Go ahead.
Okay. Any additional questions for City Planner Beckley? Okay, no, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart.
Anyone else here from the public who would like to address the council on this issue? Okay, terrific. Councilor Cobb?
I'll end with a closing statement. There's a lot of information that the Finance Committee has corralled on this topic. My goal tonight was to basically listen to input and not add too much to it. So we do have a lot more. I encourage people to review the project and get an understanding of the funding sources that are involved here. One little note in that the current proposal is for affordable rental units. Even though you've heard a lot of talk about affordable housing, please keep that in the back of your mind when you're reviewing this information. That said, what I'd like to do is make a motion, the following motion rather, to continue the public hearing to 10/6/10, and I'll read it as followed, and I can pass this off to Barbara if she so wishes. I move to continue the public hearing concerning the supplemental appropriation of $200,000 from CPA Housing Fund to provide funding for long-term affordable housing at 16-9 Parsons Street to October 6, 2010 at 6:15 in these chambers.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for continuation of the public hearing on this topic, the $200,000 from the CPA Housing Fund for the affordable housing at Parsons Street to October 6th. And so there's a motion and a second, so any additional comments, Councilor Cobb?
If any councilors or any member present has any additional questions or information they'd like to present, please either notify a member of the Finance Committee or come to the meetings and we'll take it up. Thank you.
And as a comment, the next finance meeting, I believe, is September 22nd, 6:30, and I believe this would be obviously a topic on that agenda. So if people would like to participate in that finance meeting, please come to that meeting on September 22nd. Moving on. I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. So public hearing has been continued to October 6th.
And you guys can all come back.
Oh, we will.
Just let the crowd clear out.
Nobody wants to talk about the school net spending?
Will you be on the roof tomorrow?
Okay, Councilor Cobb, supplemental reduction request, please.
Thank you. I'm going to make a second reading of the following item. We have a supplemental reduction request for fiscal year 2011. It's dated June 28, 2010. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested is $147,274. It has the auditor's approval signature on it. It's to be reduced from school net spending, the full amount. The amount requested will reduce for the following reasons. These funds will be provided directly to the school department and were not included in the fiscal 2011 Chapter 70 state aid. This reduction will reduce estimated Chapter 70 receipts in the 2011 budget by from $7,675,531 to $7,528,257 signed by the mayor and the department head. There is some supplemental information that came with the request. We have deliberated on this with the mayor. I have some follow-up correspondence. I'm glad the mayor's here to keep me straight if I say something wrong on this one. And so I'll give a little bit of background on this. Our last meeting, the Finance Committee did vote 2-0 to recommend approval of this particular request. If you remember, June 24th is when the legislature voted on the conference committee's budget this year rather. June 2nd is when we voted on our budget. So our budget was based on the best estimates we had at the time, and of course in that estimate was the Chapter 70 money, and when the conference committee came out, those numbers had changed a little bit, leaving us with a shortfall of $235,331. The mayor has indicated his first response to this was to, because of the addition of some stimulus funds, was to, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, was to actually reduce this line item. And it's kind of hard to, a reduction is kind of hard to say because we never got the money to begin with. And so it's not really there, but it still leaves us with a shortfall of $88,037. And that stimulus money is a one-time payment to the school. So I just wanted to bring that up. We see this as, since it's money we never got, and we're in a process of rebalancing our budget at this point based on newer information, that this was more of a housekeeping issue for us, and we voted 2-0 to recommend favorably for this.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak to the council concerning it? Please, not seeing any. Okay. Council Cobb, do you want to continue?
I have one question to the mayor.
Okay.
Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay, close enough.
253,000 or
33,
that number you had, is what the budget was out of balance. And so we made it up in three ways. One is this Chapter 70 money that didn't materialize as Chapter 70, but as a one-time grant. So this is a kind of negative, non-impact on the school. It doesn't help them, doesn't hurt them, but it does, of course, for the next fiscal year, reduce our base for Chapter 70, which we'll have to worry about in the FY12 budget. Your passage of the meals tax closed more of that gap, and then we made some further adjustments in our estimated local receipts to finish closing the gap.
Okay. Answers my question.
Any additional, okay, no, Councilor Cobb, continue, I guess.
Thank you. If there are no further questions from the public or fellow councilors, I'd like to make a motion to recommend that this is an approval of this request as presented tonight.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the proposal to reduce the school net spending by $147,270.0 from the school department, as this were not included in the FYO 2011 Chapter 70 state aid. Any additional discussion on this topic? Okay, now being seen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you.
That concludes my portion of the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Councilor Shatanoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had originally two proposals from the police department for changes in city ordinance. One of the changes was found to be unnecessary because there was a section in Section 8 of our city ordinance that was almost verbatim in terms of blocking passageways of another. So the police department has withdrawn their request for that action. So the only one that we have tonight before us is the ordinance for Section 6-12, consumption of alcoholic beverages on public ways, and passing a container of alcohol, drinking on streets, sidewalks, parking lots, playgrounds, parks, and or cemeteries owned and maintained by the city of Easthampton. The ordinance subcommittee met earlier this week with Chief McMahon, who went through this. The basic ordinance stays the same. The only thing that's changing, in essence, is that the power of arrest is being added. Previously, the city ordinance stopped at a $50 fine. The penalty is still a $50 fine, but people are subject to a warrantless arrest if the officer at the scene deems necessary with this action.
And I'm sorry, did you say the subcommittee voted?
3-0 in favor of the motion. Sorry about that.
You may have said it. I'm sorry, Councilor Burns.
What Chief McMahon also said to us is that it seemed to be a matter of interpretation, that it was not an arrestable offense, so it isn't exactly that it's changing, correct, Counselor Shattunoff? It's more that the interpretation was that it was not arrestable and only finable, but that given another reading of it, it could be arrestable?
Well,
That's
it
what
wa-
he explained
It
to
was,
us,
it
so
was
that it's
under a
not really
different,
changing.
it was under a different Mass General law, that we're making it arrestable under a city ordinance with the passage of this. And that the confusion was with the
Oh, I
Mass
thought it was an
General law.
interpretation of the Mass General law that our city
Right.
attorney at the time
Right, but this,
reported to the police department.
this just clarifies
It
that.
was clarified, so it's, okay. I don't know if that's helpful or.
Well, just
Helpful
for
to me.
consistency's sake, if there's anyone here from the public who would like to speak to it. Okay, not being seen, okay, I guess we can go back to the council discussion then. Do you want to make a motion, then continue the discussion? Councilor?
Just a question on item D, since you're saying that's being withdrawn. Since there's been no public input on it, you're going to be putting forward a motion to have this removed from the agenda?
Yeah, we can, I was figuring in the ordinance where this is actually above that anyway, but I was going to ask for a motion for removal of that, so.
Right.
Why don't we just continue on this, since this is letter C, and then we'll come back and remove that one. Councilor Shattunoff, did you, Councilor Kopp?
The language before us in 612 has been vetted by the city attorney?
This is language that was presented by the chief of police. It has not gone to the city attorney, to my knowledge. I didn't send it.
Thank you.
Councilor Rist?
I'm not sure it's necessary, given that it's probably language that they have pulled from other ordinances in other cities, and I don't think we need to spend the money on attorney fees, given that I'm trusting the chief on this, that he found language that I'm sure is defendable in court. So I'm not going to worry about that myself, just to make that comment. Yeah, we do know the DA now, so we're not going to have any problem with this.
Councilor Shattunoff, I have a question. If you could just, for me, explain what was the exact, is there a new paragraph or just a change in the sentence? Where was this ordinance actually changed?
What it's done is added the power of arrest.
Okay, just the
So the
power.
bottom section is the new
Yes.
stuff?
Well, here's
And-
what
and
it
it's-
used to be.
it-
That's what it was before.
Oh, it's a lot larger. This is 612 it's a one
Okay.
small paragraph, so the current ordinance is very small.
And where was the,
Pass this
that's
on, everybody.
correct, where did you, oh, this was, so that Chief McMahon submitted A, B, C, all those
Right.
different parts, okay. Did he happen to say where he got it from? Mention, where, was this, did he pick it from a certain?
Did not tell me where he drafted this from. I took it to be, his profession. He did say assistance to the Northampton Police Department. No, that was the, I thought that was the blocking.
Oh, sorry.
That was that's the next item. But it was drafted by the police department, and I trust the chief's professionalism. I did not think there was a need to send it to the city attorney. The power of arrest that's being added is a format that's been followed by most of the departments around our area anyway for many years. When I was working in South Hadley, and I know Northampton has it, and other departments have it, so this is not a huge expansion of. He also talked with the Parks and Rec Department, and that was part of what was being addressed in here was a problem that's been occurring on cemetery property and within the Parks Department. So this is an effort to deal with those issues.
Councilor Riss?
I just want to say that this expands and clarifies a great deal from our original ordinance, and I like it because it gives clarity to enforcement officers as to what's allowed, where and when, or what's not allowed. I like the Parks and Recreation statement as well. I think this kind of ordinance is obviously something that is continuing to be a problem in most cities and towns with the consumption of alcohol. So clarity on this issue for the police is excellent. I like it. Thank you.
Councilor Cobb?
Just one final comment. While I have some concern that this is not vetted by the city attorney, given we added the power of arrest, I do concur with the councilor on the professionalism of the individual who actually presented this to us, and we'll be voting in favor of this.
Thank you. Councilor Derby?
I think what Chief McMahon gave us was well thought out and was good, and I was in support of it. I am in support of it. However, as I left the meeting and I was thinking about this change, I feel like it's a fairly significant change in the power that we're giving our officers, from a $50 citation to the power of arrest, where the person is going to go to jail. And unless they pay the fine to get out, they're going to stay in jail until they are going to, So, that being said, one of the things that I thought might make sense as the progressive community that we are, I think in a lot of ways, is looking at making sure that we're, if this is somebody's first offense, even though it's at the discretion of the officer, they can issue the $50 ticket. To me, it makes sense to say the second offense or after the second offense, it should be an arrestable. It seems more reasonable if you're gonna, what Captain McMahon was saying, this was a reoccurring issue with, Chief, sorry, it's been a while. What Chief McMahon said was it's a reoccurring issue with the same people over and over again, and the police are getting frustrated because they don't have the power of arrest. If that's the case, this would, it would be a moot point if we added the second offense. Because the first offense they'd get the ticket, second offense they'd be arrested. So I think I'm going to be adding it, even though, sorry Barbara, I don't have it written down.
You better write it.
I can write it right now.
Okay.
So anyway, I think I'm going to be offering that amendment.
Andrea will stall for you.
I would
Councilor
be in
Burns.
support of that as well. And Chief McMahon made it pretty clear that it's about 25 individuals that he notices over and over again, and the $50 fines they can't pay and are not enough of a deterrent. And I completely trust our police department and him. But I feel the same way, and I was hesitant, and we had a lengthy discussion with him. I trust them to do it, but at the same time, if there's an interpretation, we hire other police officers or have a different chief, we're setting a precedent. Maybe someone who's not as prudent or careful or even tempered, and I would be in support of having it be a second offense, and it wouldn't probably apply to many of those people, but it could apply to someone who.
Great. I think that, Councilor Hagan, did you raise your hand?
Yes, I just had a quick question. I'm supportive of the original forum, but and it may be unfair to the subcommittee, but did the chief say how many actual citations were issued like last year, just for public? I mean, did he ever say, give a firm number on what type of a problem this is? In other words, how many citations have actually been issued?
It's a big problem.
No, but I just meant in terms of numbers.
I don't think he gave us an
He didn't
actual
give us a
number.
hard number, but he did say that it's very difficult to collect on monies. I mean, they're not able to
Right,
pay the
to pay the
fines,
fine.
and it's not a deterrent. That's what he said to us.
Councilor Rist, I believe, is next, and Councilor Shepard.
Given the questions arising tonight, I can't vote on this without the chief's input on an amendment like this, what it occurs to enforceability. There's questions about where he got this. Did he get it from what city or town? And I think they're sufficient enough that I would like to ask the ordinance committee to continue the public hearing and ask Chief McMahon to appear before us so these questions could be answered. I'm hoping the council will agree with that.
Thank you. Councilor Shepard. And then you,
Um,
I'm sorry,
the way-
Councilor Shepard, and then Councilor
He's
Sakowski.
going first?
Councilor
The,
Satchel.
the chief had a conflict in schedule and couldn't be here tonight. So if people have questions for the chief, I think it would be smart to wait for the chief to get here. I really think that adding a motion to further muddy the waters is not in the best interest of the city or the police department. But could we continue this for the second meeting in October?
I think we could, we'll just have some more comments before.
The way we're going here, I think we ought to have, also, I like the idea of continuing this public hearing, but also I'd like to have that ordinance checked by the town attorney before it comes back to make sure everything is legal. Don't you think we should do that? Because, you know, we're throwing out motions here and there, and we don't know the legality. Just one step, ask the town attorney to review it, and then bring it forward to the council. Would that make sense, or is that redundant?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think it probably is. I assume he probably took it from somewhere that has probably been already vetted. And, you know, in today's budget, you always worry how much is this going to cost for this simple ordinance change. I think it's something certainly should be considered, and we can talk about in the ordinance committee. Councilor Rist?
I'm just going to suggest that if the chief doesn't answer the question of where he got this from and whether it was vetted in another city or town to the satisfaction of the ordinance committee, then yes, it should go to the ordinance, to the city attorney to review. But let's give him a chance to respond to where he got it, because if he's taking this from similar language in another city or town, we know it's got probably have court. It's been vetted in a court, and I'm not going to worry about it. But I think Councilor Psychowski's right. Let's find out what the chief got this. I think it's just too many questions, so I'd like to see us continue.
Okay, Councilor Strachan, would you like to make a motion?
I think Councilor Kirby has.
I'm okay.
To continue the public hearing?
Continue the public hearing until,
It's October 6th, I believe.
no, I was going to go with the 17th. Is that the next one after that?
Oh, after that?
Our public hearing agenda is pretty, the 20th?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Continue it to the 20th?
Gives the chief time to
Yeah.
respond.
Okay.
And
So,
that way there, if there is a need to seek city attorney's counsel, there'll be time as well.
Terrific.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to continue this public hearing concerning the consumption of alcoholic beverages in public ways to October 20th, 6:15 p.m. in these chambers. Any additional discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Second item, I'd like to propose a motion to remove the request for the additional section regarding obstructing of passage.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to remove from the public hearing agenda the amendment to see ordinances Chapter 8, by addition of the new Section 8.5, obstruction of passages as follows. Additional comment, Councilor Rist?
The words "without prejudice" should be added to the motion, so there is no prejudice on this.
Okay.
It's just common we add that.
Okay, we'll just add that to that motion. Approved. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Okay, I believe we've gone through it, so I'll take a motion for closure of the public hearings.
So moved.
Okay.
Wait a minute, one more thing.
I'm sorry.
I failed to announce one more meeting. There's going to be a joint public hearing of the Planning Board and the Ordinance Subcommittee on the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. to deal with the citizen petition request for 6 laying hens in zones, residential zones R5, R10, and R15.
Okay. The motion was made and seconded, correct?
No, that's already been done. This is just an announcement.
Yeah, I know, we were still just closing the public hearing.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
weren't closing the meeting, we were just closing the
I'm
public
sorry.
hearing. That's okay.
Sorry about that.
All those in favor of closing the public hearings? Aye. Opposed, abstained, okay. Motion
Move
passes.
that we adjourn.
Well, we have to, you said your meeting.
I said
Barb
my
had
piece.
it, okay?
Just an announcement.
Okay. And so we have a motion to close the meeting?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion, meeting closed.
Sorry, I thought you were putting the brakes on the meeting.
Just Joe?
Yes.
Just
Okay.
Joe.
You need to send this to me.
Mike, do we, is there any, ever an event that we